I used to believe my marriage was a fortress. Something we had built together, stone by stone, with love and promises. It felt strong. It felt safe. I thought it was the one thing in my life that was truly, completely mine. But a fortress can have a secret door. A door you never knew existed. And one day you find it. You turn the handle. And you discover that everything inside, every cherished memory, every shared dream, wasn't what you thought it was. The day I found out my mother was paying my husband to stay with me was the day my entire world turned into a beautiful, heartbreaking lie. It all started so perfectly. Or at least it looks that way when I think back now, through the soft, hazy lens of memory. My name is Anna. And for 10 years I was married to Ben. We met in our late 20s. I was a freelance illustrator, working from my cozy, sunlit home studio, surrounded by sketchbooks and half-finished cups of tea. Ben was a musician. Not a famous one, but a talented one. He played guitar in a jazz band that had a steady gig at a little club downtown. His music was his life. It was the thing that fed his soul, even if it didn't always pay the bills. I fell in love with the whole package. The sound of his laughter, which was deep and genuine. The way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. The way he would get lost in a melody. His fingers dancing on the strings, completely unaware of the world around him. He was passionate and a little bit unpredictable. I've always loved my routines and quiet spaces. But that moment was truly exciting. My mother, Eleanor, was cautious. She was a widow. My father had passed away from a sudden illness when I was in college, and she had never really moved on. She built a life for the two of us that was stable, secure, and safe. She was a rock. But sometimes, rocks don't understand the flow of a river. She liked Ben well enough. She would always be polite when he came over. She'd ask him about his music, but her questions always had a subtle edge to them. Are a lot of people coming to your shows? Or what's the long-term plan with something like that? Ben would just smile, that easy, charming smile of his. The plan, Eleanor, is to play from the heart. The rest will follow. I could see it made her nervous. She wanted a 5-year plan, a mortgage, a retirement fund. Ben lived in the beautiful, uncertain present. I loved that about him. I thought it balanced my own more careful nature. When we got engaged, my mother hugged me tight. I just want you to be happy, Anna. I just want you to be safe. At the time, I thought it was just a mother's worry. Now, I understand it was a prophecy. The first few years of our marriage were like a dream. We lived in a small apartment that was always filled with music. I would draw at my desk, and he would practice new chords on the couch. We were poor, but we were happy. Our lives were a duet. My quiet sketches and his vibrant soundtracks. We struggled, of course. My income was irregular. His gigs sometimes got cancelled. There were months where we'd be counting loose change to buy groceries. But we were a team. We'd turn it into a game. Okay, he'd say. We have $17. What's the most romantic meal we can make with $17? We'd end up with boxed pasta and a cheap candle, laughing like it was a feast. I remember one particularly tough month. The car broke down and the repair bill wiped out our savings. We were sitting at our little kitchen table, surrounded by bills, feeling the weight of it all. Ben held my hand. It's just a season, Anna. A rough season. Spring always comes. I believed him. I looked into his eyes and I saw our future. I saw us growing old together in a house filled with art and music and love. I saw us getting through the hard times, hand in hand. That belief was my anchor. My mother saw the struggle from the outside. She would call me. How are things really? She'd ask, her voice laced with concern. We're fine, Mom. Really. We're happy. She would pause. I could hear the silence on the other end of the line. Heavy with all the things she wanted to say but didn't. I could help, you know. It wouldn't be any trouble. No, Mom. Thank you. We need to do this on our own. I was so proud. So determined to prove that our love was enough. That our choice to build a life together, however imperfect, was the right one. I thought refusing her money was a declaration of our independence. I had no idea that while I was building a wall to keep her out, she was already digging a tunnel underneath. The first crack appeared so slowly. I almost didn't notice it. It was just a shift in the air. Change in temperature. Ben's band started to get a bit more recognition. They were asked to play at a small festival. Then they got a spot on a local radio station. It felt like his spring was finally arriving. But with the small successes came longer hours. More rehearsals. Late nights at the club. He'd come home exhausted, the scent of cigarette smoke and beer clinging to his clothes. The music that once filled our home with joy started to feel like a rival for his attention. Our simple, money-strapped dinners together became less frequent. I'd cook for one, eating at the kitchen table alone, listening for the sound of his key in the lock. Our duet was becoming a solo performance, and I was the one sitting in the audience in the dark. I tried to discuss it with him. "I miss you," I said one night as he was heading out the door. He stopped and gave me a quick kiss. "I miss you too. This is just a busy patch. It'll calm down." But it didn't calm down. And the strange thing was our financial situation did. The car was fixed with no discussion. The bills on the kitchen table seemed to disappear. When I'd bring it up, Ben would wave a hand. "The gigs are paying better now," he'd say. And I picked up a few private teaching sessions. "It's all good." I wanted to believe him. I so desperately wanted to believe that our hard work was finally paying off. But a tiny cold seed of doubt was planted in my mind. His explanations felt rehearsed. Too simple. One Saturday I was cleaning the apartment. I moved a stack of his sheet music from the top of our old wooden dresser. Underneath was a folded check. It wasn't from a club or a student. It was from my mother. My heart stopped for a second. It was made out to Ben. For $1,000. The memo line just said, "For you both." I stood there, holding the piece of paper. It felt hot in my hands. 1,000 questions buzzed in my head. Why was he hiding this? Why was it just for him? Why hadn't he told me? When he came home that evening, I was waiting for him. I held out the check. My hand was trembling. "What is this, Ben?" He looked at it. For a moment he seemed startled. Then his face softened into a gentle smile. He came over and took my hands. "Sweetheart, I didn't want you to worry. Your mom gave it to me not long ago. She said she wanted us to have a nice dinner and buy something for the apartment. You know how she is. I was gonna tell you, I just forgot." I stuck it there, and it completely slipped my mind. It sounded plausible. My mother did give us money sometimes for birthdays or holidays. And Ben was forgetful. He lived in his head in the world of music. "Why is it just to you?" I broke the silence, my voice barely a whisper. "I guess because she knew I'd be the one dealing with the finances this month," he said, pulling me into a hug. "It's nothing, really. Don't let it upset you." He felt so familiar. His embrace felt like home. I wanted so badly to believe him that I convinced myself it was true. I buried that cold little doubt where no light could reach. That my mother's constant worrying was getting to me. But after that I started to see things differently. I noticed little things. Ben bought a new guitar pedal. It was expensive. When I asked about it, he said he got a great deal from a friend. We went out for a fancy dinner for our anniversary. He paid with a crisp new $100 bill. He said the club had paid him in cash. He started talking about maybe looking for a bigger place. Somewhere with a better soundproof room for me to practice, he said. Each of these things on their own was nothing. But together they started to form a pattern. A pattern I didn't want to see. Called my mom. I tried to sound casual. "Hey, thanks for the money you gave Ben. That was really sweet of you." There was a pause on the other end. Just a beat too long. "Oh, it was nothing, darling. I just want to help. I know how things can be." Her voice was light, but it felt practiced. It felt like she was choosing her words very, very carefully. The atmosphere in our home changed. It was subtle. The love was still there, I know it was. But it was now living alongside a secret. A secret they shared, my husband and my mother. and I was on the outside of it. I felt myself pulling away from both of them. From Ben because I couldn't shake the feeling he was hiding something. From my mother because I felt her presence in my marriage, in my home, in a way that made me deeply uncomfortable. I started having quiet arguments with Ben. They weren't loud or dramatic. They were quiet and sad. "Do you still want this?" I asked him one night, lying in the dark back to back. "Want what?" he asked, his voice sleepy. "This is our life." He turned over. I could feel his movement in the bed. The warmth of his body, the hush of the sheets. "Of course I do, Anna. Why would you even ask that?" "I don't know," I whispered. "You just feel distant lately." He sighed, not sharp, not angry. Just tired. A sound that settled between us like dust. "I'm just busy. I'm building something. For us, for our future. Can you just trust me?" "Trust me," he said. 2 words. They should have wrapped around me like a blanket. But instead they pressed down like stone. How could I explain that the trust we built now carried a quiet fracture? The worst part was the loneliness. The feeling that I was the only one in the dark. I would watch Ben and my mother at family dinners. They were so polite with each other. So normal. But now, I saw the glances they exchanged. A quick look when they thought I wasn't watching. It was a look of understanding. A look of complicity. I felt like I was going crazy. Was I imagining it? Was I creating problems where none existed because I was scared of our changing lives? I didn't know anymore. The truth and the lie were so tangled together, I couldn't tell them apart. The duet was over. Now it felt like they were playing a different song and I didn't have the sheet music. The breaking point came on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. There was no storm. No dramatic fight. Just sunshine and the quiet hum of the refrigerator. I was working on a big illustration project. Children's book. I needed a specific reference document. Our marriage certificate. We'd needed it for a passport application a year ago, and Ben had said he would file it away safely. I looked in the filing cabinet. It wasn't there. I looked in his desk drawers. Nothing. Then I remembered an old leather-bound portfolio case he kept on the top shelf of his closet. He called it his important stuff case. I had to drag a chair over to reach it. It was heavy. I brought it down and laid it on the bed. My heart was beating a little fast. I felt like I was snooping. But I told myself I had a good reason. I was just looking for a document. I unbuckled the worn leather straps. Inside it was a mess of papers. Old song lyrics. Contracts from his early band days. And then I saw it. A simple, standard white envelope. It had my mother's elegant handwriting on it. It was addressed to Ben. At our address. My breath caught in my throat. Picked it up. It wasn't sealed. Opened it. Inside there was no letter. No note. Just checks. Dozens of them. Maybe 50 or more. All made out to Ben. All signed by my mother. My hands started to shake so badly I almost dropped them. I sat down on the edge of the bed. The pile of checks spilling out onto the comforter. I started looking at the dates. They went back years. Back to around the time our financial situation had mysteriously improved. The amounts varied. $500, $1,000, sometimes $2,000. The memos were always vague. For expenses. For you both. With love. But they were all to Ben. Only to Ben. This was no occasional gift. This was a salary. A regular payment. The room started to spin. I felt like I couldn't get enough air. This was the secret door. And I had just pushed it wide open. I must have sat there for an hour. Just staring at the papers in my lap. The evidence of the lie. The proof that the fortress I lived in was made of cardboard. I heard Ben's key in the door. I heard him call out, "Honey, I'm home." His voice sounded so normal. So every day. It was the most horrible sound I had ever heard. He walked into the bedroom, smiling. He was carrying a takeout bag from my favorite Thai place. "I thought we could have a quiet night in," he said. Then he saw my face. He saw the open portfolio on the bed. He saw the checks scattered around me like fallen leaves. His smile vanished. The takeout bag slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. The silence in the room was absolute. It was heavier than any sound. It was the sound of my world ending. "Anna," he whispered. His face was pale. I couldn't speak. I just held up one of the checks. My hand was steady now. A cold, terrible calm had settled over me. "What is this, Ben?" My voice was quiet. Didn't even sound like me. He took a step forward, his hands out, pleading. "It's not what it looks like." "It looks," I said, my words slow and precise, "like my mother has been paying you. For years." "What for, Ben? What was she buying?" He sank into the armchair in the corner of the room. He put his head in his hands. For a long time he didn't speak. I just waited. I had all the time in the world now. Finally he looked up. His eyes were red. "She was worried about you," he said, his voice hoarse. "She came to me. It was after that really bad winter, when we almost got evicted. She said she couldn't stand to see you struggle. She said you were too proud to take money from her. So she gave it to you instead." I asked. The coldness in my voice surprised me. "It started small," he said, his words tumbling out now. "She said, 'Here, take this, get Anna something nice.' Then it became more. For the rent, for the car. She said she knew my music career was unstable. She said she wanted to provide a safety net. For you." "A safety net," I repeated. The words tasted like ash. "She made me promise not to tell you," he continued, his voice desperate. "She said it would hurt your pride. She said it would make you feel like a child. She said we were doing this for you. To protect you." I looked at him. The man I had loved for 10 years. The man I had built a life with. And in that moment, I didn't see the passionate musician. I saw a boy who had been bought. "And you agreed?" I asked. "You took her money and you lied to me. 4 years." "It wasn't like that," he insisted, standing up. "I love you, Anna. I never wanted to lie to you. But your mother, she was so convincing. She made it sound like it was the only way to keep you happy, to keep us together." And then, he said the words that shattered what was left of my heart. She said that without her help, the stress would break us. She said I might not be able to stay. That I might leave. There it was. The truth, naked and ugly. My mother hadn't just been providing a safety net. She had been paying him to stay. She had looked at our love, at our marriage, and she had decided it wasn't strong enough to survive on its own. She had decided I wasn't enough to keep him. And Ben had agreed with her. He had taken the money. He had lived the lie. He had let my mother become the third person in our marriage, the silent partner who paid the bills and, in doing so, paid for his presence in my life. I stood up. I felt numb, hollowed out. "I need you to leave, Ben," I said. My voice was quiet, but it was final. "Anna, please." "No," I said. "There is nothing left to say. You didn't just lie to me. You let me live in a world that wasn't real. You let me believe in a love that needed to be propped up by my mother's checkbook. Now please, get out." He looked at me for a long moment. He saw the resolve in my eyes. The grief had not yet arrived. All that was left was a stark, clear certainty. He nodded slowly, picked up a small bag and put a few things in it. He didn't look at me again. When the front door closed behind him, the silence rushed back in. But this time it was different. It was the silence of truth. It was devastating, but it was clean. The days that followed were a blur. I moved through the apartment like a ghost. I didn't cry at first. The hurt was too deep for tears. It was a fundamental shift in my understanding of everything. Of my marriage. Of my mother. Of myself. I had to talk to my mother. I couldn't avoid it. I drove to her house. It was immaculate as always. The garden was perfectly manicured. Everything was in its place. It was a portrait of control. She opened the door, her face lighting up with a smile. "Anna." What a lovely surprise. I walked past her into the living room. I didn't sit down. I know, Mom, I said. My voice was flat. I found the checks. All of them. Her smile froze, then melted away. She looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw real fear in her eyes. Anna, I can explain. What is there to explain? I asked. You've been paying my husband. For years. You were paying him to stay with me. Tears welled in her eyes. No. That's not it at all. I was helping you. I was protecting you. I saw how you struggled. I saw the worry in your eyes. I couldn't stand it. I lost your father. I couldn't stand the thought of you losing everything too. So you decided to buy me a husband? The words were harsh, but I couldn't stop them. You decided that my love wasn't good enough? That I wasn't good enough to keep a man without your money? It wasn't about you, she cried, her voice breaking. It was about him. I saw how he was. The instability. The unreliability. I was afraid he would leave you. I was afraid you would be heartbroken. I did it to prevent that. I did it for you. You didn't do it for me. I shouted, the numbness finally giving way to a wave of hot, painful emotion. You did it for you. You did it because you were scared. You were scared of my life, because it wasn't as safe and controlled as yours. You couldn't trust me to live my own life, to make my own mistakes, to fight my own battles. You had to control it. You had to fix it. And in doing so, you broke it. You broke the one thing I thought was real. I was crying now, deep, wrenching sobs. She was crying too. We stood in her perfect living room. Two women shattered by a secret meant to protect. I thought I was helping, she whispered over and over. I thought I was helping. That was the core of it. She truly believed it. In her mind, she was the hero of the story, saving her daughter from pain. She never saw herself as the villain. She never saw that her help was a poison that eroded the very foundation of my happiness. I didn't forgive her that day. I couldn't. The betrayal was too fresh, too profound. I left her house and went back to my empty apartment. The silence was waiting for me. But now it was a silence I had chosen. The legal part of the divorce was surprisingly straightforward. Ben didn't fight it. I think he was as ashamed as I was hurt. We had no children, few assets. It was the emotional unraveling that took time. Untangling 10 years of memories, of habits, of love. I had to learn to be alone. Truly alone. Not lonely but solitary. I had to learn to pay my own bills, to fix a leaky faucet, to eat dinner by myself without feeling sad. And slowly, I started to find a strength I never knew I had. I started to draw again. But this time my drawings were different. They were bolder. They were mine. I poured all the confusion and the pain onto the paper. And from that pain, something beautiful began to grow. I didn't speak to my mother for almost a year. It was the hardest year of my life. I missed her. Despite everything, I missed my mom. But I needed that distance. I needed to become my own person, separate from her, separate from Ben. I needed to prove to myself that I could stand on my own 2 feet. And I did. One afternoon I was in a coffee shop sketching. An old song came on the sound system. It was a song Ben used to play. For a moment, a wave of sadness washed over me. But it wasn't for him, not really. It was for the dream. For the beautiful, fragile dream we had once shared. And in that moment, I didn't feel anger. I felt a quiet, profound pity. For Ben, who had traded his integrity for security. For my mother, who was so imprisoned by her own fear that she tried to build a cage of safety for me. And for myself, for the woman who had lived in that cage for so long, never knowing the door was locked. I picked up my phone. My fingers trembled, but I dialed her number. "Mom," I said when she answered. "It's Anna. Can we talk?" We met in a park, a neutral place. She looked older. The year had been hard on her too. We didn't talk about the checks right away. We talked about small things. The weather, her garden, my work. It was stiff and awkward at first. But it was a start. After a while I took a deep breath. Mom, I need you to understand something. What you did, it broke me. It made me question everything about myself. She nodded, her eyes filled with tears. I know. And I will regret it for the rest of my life. I was wrong. I see that now. I thought I was being a good mother. But I was just being a scared one. I know you were scared, I said softly. I'm scared too sometimes. Life is scary. But you have to let me be scared. You have to let me fall. You have to let me get back up. That's how I learn. That's how I grow. It was the first real conversation we had ever had as two adults. Not as a mother and a child, but as two women, both flawed, both trying their best. Forgiveness didn't come in a single moment. Came slowly, like the changing of seasons. Came in small gestures, text messages, shared lunch, a hug that lasted a little longer than usual. We are rebuilding our relationship now. On new ground, on truth. It's different. It might never be what it was. But in some ways it's stronger. Because it's honest. As for Ben, I heard through a mutual friend that he's still playing music. I hope he finds his happiness. I don't hate him. How can I hate someone who was as lost as I was? We were both caught in my mother's well-intentioned web. So that's my story. The story of the wife who was bought and paid for, and didn't even know it. It taught me the most valuable lesson I've ever learned. Love cannot be bought. Cannot be guaranteed with a safety net. It cannot be forced to stay with money or fear or manipulation. Real love is a choice. It's a choice you make every single day, without any promises, without any guarantees. It's a fragile, beautiful thing that has to be free. Free to stay and free to go. The greatest gift you can give someone you love is not your protection. It's your trust. Trust in their strength. Trust in their resilience. Trust that they can navigate their own life, with all its beautiful, terrible uncertainties. My mother thought she was building me a fortress, but she was really building a cage. And the moment I walked out of it was the moment I finally learned how to fly. I walk alone now, not in grief but in grace. Not lonely but luminous. I am no longer waiting to be chosen. I am myself, soft in heart, strong in spirit. And for the first time in a long, long time, my life feels like a garden I planted. Not borrowed, not bargained, but blooming from my own breath. And that is a feeling no amount of money can ever buy. Thank you for listening with your heart, for being present in the hush. You are the echo that keeps the story breathing. Until the next veil lifts, may our paths cross again.